This to me is like everyone comes in like guns blazing. Like, what about a like they think they got Christians cornered with this
like the
one.
easiest one.
And to me, this is the easiest. But this is the one that I'm like, I love it when my family brings it up.
Like, I'm glad we're moving on from homo.
Yeah. It was because I'm just like, oh yeah, come on, this is it. This is the one. So let's see how Cliffe handles it. Go ahead.
That's the classic, like 12-year-old is, and a subset of Christians say she can't have an abortion because it's against the Bible, or it's illegal in their state. And which I think
the framing of this is always this, by the way.
Yeah, it's never.
There's a 9-year-old. There's a 9-year-old, and this 9-year-old gets awfully raped. You're forcing that 9-year-old to see the baby to turn, like, it's always the most outlandish.
Is a little bit difficult for me to get behind, because even though you may be an American who lives in Texas, perhaps you're not a Christian, perhaps you don't abide by Christian rules and beliefs, and so it's not illegal. It's not legal in Texas to get an abortion, but partially because the Bible said so. And when the Constitution was written, it was heavily intertwined in that document, and so that's another thing I thought it was a little hard for me to be able to get behind. I really believe in women being able to make choices with their own body, and I don't think a panel of men should have any say in that.
Right. You mentioned to us when we walked in that you're here to see the ultrasound of your child.
Yep.
The last generation.
Ooh, he went straight to Logan's baby.
He's like, speaking of which,
women should make choices.
You see, you're expecting a daughter. Why are you expecting a daughter?
Oh, interesting. Your mom is excited to see the ultrasound of her grandbaby. Emphasis on the baby.
It was only 35% of the U.S. was pro-life.
Yep.
Now it's 51%. Like, that's it's because of ultrasound.
Is that true?
That's true. It's a pretty drastic change because of ultrasound.
Insane.
And I think right then and there, you see obviously the baby being torn apart. You see the baby having emotions, back to your point, and you ascribe value to that fetus or pre-fetus.
Pause it. I don't know if he's alluding to this, but the silent scream definitely really captivated not captivated, but like activated the pro-life movement, because prior to the silent scream, which is a documentary of an ultrasound of a termination of a baby, we didn't know what was happening. We didn't know how developed the baby was. So when you saw a 12-week baby get deleted in the ultrasound, that is what a lot of people. So technology played a big role.
Wow.
In seeing what was inside, and then all of a sudden it was like, it's not just about quickening. There is an actual human in there because they got 10 fingers, 10 toes, clearly, right? And so I think I don't know if that's what he's alluding to, but that's absolutely contributed to it. Go ahead.
And so when I hear, for example, over in the Netherlands, I first heard it and I got excited when I heard, Down syndrome, they're finding a type of cure. Well, I found out they're just all Down syndrome babies.
That's a cure.
Ooh,
that's a cure, right? That's some type of cure.
Yeah.
And that's ascribing zero value to Down syndrome babies.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
We have a bunch of Down syndrome kids in our church who are the happiest, most joy-filled, most life-giving human beings imaginable. And so that's when you play fast and loose, I think, with human life. And again, if you don't ascribe value something outside of, they're healthy, or they're not going to be a suck on society. If it's something beyond that, where it's, no, they have value no matter what, because they're created in God's image. They reflect even God's image. Then you can't end that life.
It's very funny you bring up the ultrasound thing. We got the ultrasound of my unborn baby girl yesterday. And by the way, you're absolutely right. I'm super pro-life. I always will be. I think it's weird for.
Logan, you can't flip flop that easy. He literally just gave you one reference and you went from pro-choice to pro-life. I don't think that's how this works. I don't think you know what you're saying right now.
Logan Paul turns pro-life in 1 minute and 30 seconds.
Logan Paul changed his mind on in 30 seconds. No, I don't think I think what he's getting at is the typical, like, I'm personally pro-life, but I think legally it should be permissible. That's an incoherent position. It's an inconsistent, incoherent position.
Anyone decide what anyone else does with their body, that's insane.
Well, let me.
Let me.
I just want to.
No. I just want to. I saw the ultrasound yesterday. 21-week-old baby. And I saw fingers. I saw hands. I saw a baby. I saw a little human.
10 fingers, 10 toes at 7 weeks. Eyeball, 7 weeks. 7, 8 weeks, 10 fingers, 10 toes, eyeball. Okay. So is it less of a baby at 7 weeks?
Oof.
Is it less? Why is it less? Because it's smaller? Because the fingers are smaller? Like, what are we talking about? Like, it doesn't make any sense. It's incoherent to have these arbitrary lines. Right? Go ahead.
Personally, yeah. Seems a little up to a 21-year-old weak baby. 21-year-old week. 21-week-old baby.
Old baby.
Yeah, the ultrasound makes it super, super real. But in those odd instances and unfortunate instances where, like, again, it's always you always have people pushing back on the conversation. Or even like say someone determines they're not responsible enough. And that's a responsible decision in itself. Maybe I'm not at a point in my life where I'm willing to take care of a child because I don't have the means, the resources, the finances. I'm not stable enough in my own life to be able to bear this baby. That's I think responsible and like maybe a little bit of an ethical decision because you've deemed you're not able to raise this baby yet.
But even your statement right there semi contradicts your original statement, which is that you shouldn't be passing any judgment on when is or isn't okay because the woman should have the whole say. Like
so listen to the inconsistencies, because there is no logical conclusion to this. One side is you have to allow up until the point of birth and beyond.
Mm-hmm.
That would be the logical conclusion.
Yeah.
The other extreme, which I think is the biblical standard, is you can't play fast and loose with window. Killing a human is killing a human. It doesn't matter how big or where that human is, it's still killing a human. Killing a human is wrong, kills a human, therefore it's wrong. It's very simple. So to Mike's point, if you're going to say it's the woman's choice, well, why can't a woman put it at 30 weeks?
Yeah.
Why not 39 weeks? How about the day before? And if not the day before, how about the Romans when they were just throwing out babies that they didn't want, just throwing them in the river, and the Christians were going in and rescuing the babies, right? So like that you can't have a coherent position on this. You either got to go all the way and say, yeah, man, like Tim from the New Evangelicals was like, up until the point of birth. What's his face? RFK, up until the point of birth. Though he flip-flopped on that. He changed his mind on that. And so the other is, like once it's conceived, like once it latches, that's a baby. Go ahead.
in your original statement, if a woman says, I want to have this baby, it's her body, her choice. So we all abide to that. So we should have we shouldn't even be having this discussion based on your original.
Well, that's what it is. No. We should be having this discussion because it's all a discussion. I think at the end of the day, absolutely. I will always side with a woman who wants to do what she wants to do with her body. I believe that.
So if Nina came,
I mean, that's some, he really simping for women out here.
It's beta.
murder your baby again for the third time. If Nina came up to you today and was like, listen, like I'm having second thoughts here.
Yep. What I would do is have a prolonged discussion with her that I hope she'd be receptive to. And I think that's like healthy, you know?
Well, I mean, I guess what else can you do?
No. I mean, I don't know, but like at the end of the day, what am I going to force her to
that's what I'm
carry a
saying.
child for 6 months? That's wild to me. No, you're right. The ultrasound.
No one is forcing her. What we're doing is we're not forcing the termination of a baby. Like, and this is why like these words matter. No one is forcing a woman to do anything.
Yeah.
An act was committed, and rightfully so. Sometimes, in the rare less than 1% of instances, a woman was raped, and sometimes a woman was sinned against. But no one is then forcing her.
Yeah.
It's something happened, and then something was set in motion. Right? That's not the same as forcing someone. Like these words are like, it's not, they're not the same. Even if someone was sinned against, it's not forcing them. It's, hey, this baby is there.
Yeah.
Leave it alone.
Mm-hmm.
Leave it alone. Let nature take its course.
Don't damage your body and the baby's.
If you were sinned against, then don't commit another sin and terminate a baby and hurt yourself.
Yep.
And we can look at the statistics of how damaging this actually is on a woman's mental health and physical health.
Oh yeah. And future fertility.
Like these things are not done in a vacuum. So it's like if natural law is something been set in order, who are we to come in and be like, yeah, no, I think we got this one figured out. We're gonna go in and rip that baby out of there, or we're gonna give it a pill and dissolve that baby and destroy it. Like this is so arrogant to think this way.
Thing is interesting because I saw this baby and I did have the thought like, I'm pro-life, but like killing this thing is a little freaked up. if I were
He meant pro-choice.
You mean
to like make that decision is wild. But in the instances of the most unfortunate circumstances, based on your scripture, you're still unwilling to be okay with that decision of unborn child, even if it was a product of.
The Bible never uses the word abortion. Okay? The Bible does say we're not to murder. And murder is killing motivated by selfishness, hatred, or revenge. Obviously, there's such a thing as self-defense, which is different ethically. So murder is killing motivated by selfishness, hatred, or revenge. All right, so then obviously the hard question is, when does human life begin?
Yeah.
Right? That's the hard question.
It's the question. For sure.
Now, in every major university hospital in the United States, if a body lying on an intensive care bed has brain activity and heartbeat, doctors and nurses are legally and medically responsible to do everything within their power to sustain that life.
So between 6 to 10 weeks after conception, that, quote, little piece of skin in a woman's womb has both heartbeat and brain activity.
It has the credentials to merit what
Thank
we
you.
consider life. That
Okay.
makes a lot of sense to me.
Okay, good. So then the difficult question becomes, well, what about before 6 to 10 weeks? What is the difference between a 2-week-old fertilized egg, a 6-month-old fertilized egg, and you? I would argue there is no difference in kind. There is a difference in degree, obviously, of maturation. Different degree of maturation, no difference in kind. 100 times out of 100, that little fertilized egg is going to come down a woman's birth canal, never as an alligator, never as a chicken or a bunny rabbit, 100 times out of 100 as a baby, as a human life.
Yes, yes.
So therefore, I would argue that before 6 to 10 weeks, even though there is no brain activity or heartbeat, you've got a human being there because there's no difference in kind, just in degree of maturation.
Yeah.
So that is why I would be very, very hesitant to go down the abortion path.
Makes sense.
Does that make sense?
Totally makes sense.
I said that's it. That's a great breakdown of that specific issue. I love that.
I guess I'll always fall back on, like, we can sit here on this couch and like talk as men about what we think about it, but man, like men making decisions for women like really irks me.
Yep.
The Christians haven't done a great job of helping out with adoption agencies and raising up these babies. Like, we still have to do a much better job. And when that's structured and organized, I think there's a great answer to it, even for the crack babies where the moms can't support the baby at all.
Yep.
Christians adopt at twice the rate as non-Christians. So can we do more? Yeah, sure. Can we provide more resources? Sure. The biggest resource they found that mitigates the deletion of babies is actually 4D sonograms. When people see a 4D sonogram, they go, oh, no, that's definitely a baby. They see the value. It's not just a clump of cells. When they understand what's inside of them, they're less likely to do it. And you also hear the horror stories of people who didn't quite understand what was inside of them and then take a pill and see that baby pass through and the damage it does because they didn't realize what that's actually in there. So I think this is I don't think this is as complicated as a situation. But here's the sad part about this. Even if those of us who hold the pro-life position were to concede, hypothetically, I'm not saying this is my position, but hypothetically, even if someone was to say, you know what, fine, in the case of incest and rape, this should be permissible under the law. Even if that were the case, you still would not have the folks who are pro-life light, pro-choice hard, pro-choice light, whatever you want to call it. You still wouldn't have them condemn the other 98% of abortions. And that's when you know this isn't about incest and rape victims. This is about a darker, sinister psyop on men and women. This is about a darker, sinister psyop about men and women, against men and women that is not logical or linear. It is something beyond what we're even talking about. We're not talking about rape victims. We're not. You could go to the most fringe example, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about, do you view that as a human, yes or no? And if you do view it as a human, why doesn't it get the same rights? Regardless on how it was conceived, regardless on if it's going to have Down syndrome or not. Is it a human, yes or no? That is the crux of the question. Humans are entitled to certain rights. And regardless on how much the culture and how much the indoctrination of this foolishness, that is a separate issue. It's a separate issue. Because it makes up less than 1% of deletion of babies is because of rape and incest. And and if you were to concede that, people still wouldn't be like, yeah, and then so we should therefore ban the rest of them. Nope. They wouldn't do that. And I would argue, even if there was more pregnancy resource centers, more adoptions, more economic support, I would argue even if all of that was in place, you still wouldn't have people change their heart, because it's an issue of the heart. It's an issue of what you're viewing that person as. It's not an issue of the woman's body. That's not what the conversation is about. And by the way, the reason I'm talking about this, and the reason why I think men should talk about this, is because you got a bunch of beta weak men going and getting snipped before they've even had kids as a way to stand in solidarity with their girls and with women's rights. Like that's a thing. Men going and getting vasectomies to stand in solidarity with women's reproductive rights. It's so cringe. And all my friends who are on the front lines of the pro-life movement, who are, by the way, majority women, ask me to continue leaning in and continue speaking up about this. So if my pro-life friends are saying we need more men to speak up, and the pro-choice beta men are getting vasectomies before they had kids, we're going to keep speaking about it. Hey, thank you so much for checking out the video. Comment down below and let me know what you think. And be sure to check out this video that YouTube is recommending just for you. Let me know if they nailed it. All right? I'll see you over there. Peace.